Welcome back, beautiful historians. We are now on lesson 3. Now remember, we have a quiz on Thursday about lessons 1 through 3 of ancient Mesopotamia. Also on that quiz, it talks about the geography of ancient Mesopotamia and the rivers and kind of, where Mesopotamia is. So be sure you're studying your map. And if you're not great with studying your map by yourself, double check your Quizlet that is posted on Schoology. And I'll post the link again on the link to this video. And it has a great map practice. This time we're going to be looking at some of the accomplishments and achievements of the Sumerians, that first civilization, and we'll see how they laid the foundation for things that we use today. So make sure you're writing. There are 2 hot questions on this one, and yes, I expect you to have them both. The highest I will give you is a 90 if you do not have your hot questions done. You cannot expect full credit if you do not do all the work. Capiche? Cool. All right, guys, buckle in. Let's go. So for each of these, we're going to take a look at the advancement or achievement and its effect over here, because all of them had some major effects. Our first one is cuneiform, that first style of writing that we see from ancient Mesopotamia. Now, we believe that these were probably first developed just to keep track of how many loads of grain a farmer might be turned in, or, just the basic record keeping that we need to buy and sell things. The effect was that record keeping, but also that we started writing down our first stories and our first fiction, our first literature. We have that vocabulary word, epics. And these are long poems about heroes such as Gilgamesh. And we're actually going to watch a little video about Gilgamesh in class. And if you want a better idea of what cuneiform would have looked like, you can see some examples back here in our background. Okay, it's pretty cool language, and we managed to figure out what it means. Scribes were professional writers, and not many people in ancient Mesopotamia knew how to read and write, so they wouldn't have been as high up as, say, the priests that we talked about today in class, but they would have been very honored and respected because they had a skill that not many other people had. Now, our next one we're going to talk about is the wheel. Now, it's pretty weird to think that somebody actually had to invent the wheel, but this actually made a huge impact on how we did things, everything from pottery to transportation. So it improved farming because we could use wagons and plows to carry large loads and make farming easier. It also improved pottery. We could spin a wheel and help us make beautiful rounder pots. And today we still use a basic technology, the potting wheel, but also just basic transportation. Along with that, we had the plow. Now, if you take a look at the plow here, you'll see we have our domesticated animal, and he's got this rod back here with a curved blade. And this cut into the ground and made it easier for the ground to become loose and for seeds to take effect, and it made it easier to plant those seeds. And it broke up that hard soil, so you saved yourself a whole lot of time by not having to break it up by hand or with a shovel. If you've ever done any gardening, you know that that can be incredibly back-breaking work. It's not easy at all. So this made farmers able to plant more seeds and have larger fields to be able to work with. We also saw sails on sailboats, meaning that now ships can travel further and faster. Instead of just rowing like these gentlemen are doing here, we could use the wind to help us trade further and to go to explore new places faster. So it helped the military. They could go and invade other areas. They could sail up the rivers to have power there, or we could trade goods to further distances before things went bad and make more money. So draw some dollar signs by that trade right there, because trading is all about making money and bringing it back to our community. We also had a math system based on the number 60. So 60 sounds kind of arbitrary, but when you think about it, we use this today. We have 360 degrees in a circle. We have 60 seconds in a minute, 60 minutes in an hour. So we can divide our circle into 360 degrees. And also we have 12, which is a divisor of 60, to divide our year into 12 months. So the Sumerians kind of set up a lot of the number systems we use today in how we measure distances and time especially. We also saw that the Sumerians made some pretty major achievements and advances in medicine. We saw that they used natural ingredients found in their environment to produce healing medicines. Everything from fruits and flowers, honey, to the bark of trees to create things that were painkillers or stopped infection. They also, using that cuneiform, created the first kind of medical encyclopedias, and they had books that listed treatments according to symptoms and the anatomy or their body parts. So it made it easier for early doctors to be able to treat and prevent different illnesses. We also see some amazing architecture. Now, architecture is the science of building. So we have those beautiful temples, those ziggurats that were created. And we also see large, beautiful palaces and homes. So remember though, those ziggurats, those tall temples, and those were not places where people would be buried or that most people could go. Only priests could go there and worship the gods or pray to the gods. All right. We also saw some beautiful artwork in ancient Mesopotamia. So over here we see pottery that we have left behind. We see things like jewelry. So if you take a look up here, this is actual jewelry that was found in a Mesopotamian tomb. And so we see all sorts of beautiful colors, all sorts of beautiful fine work. This is something that specialization of labor, you would need a lot of effort to make and create. We also see objects like these cylinder seals. So these are kind of like ink stamps, except they would be rolled in clay. They're engraved with designs, and especially if you were very wealthy, you would have one of these as kind of your personal seal. So the king would have one, priests would have one, people that had lots of money would have these, and they would be able to leave their own mark in those clay tablets to say, this was mine, this is where I am. And they range in size. We found ones that were tiny, tiny, all the way to about this big. And if I can find it, I actually have a replica of one. But it's kind of like when you were a little kid and you would use, you would play with Play-Doh and you would press something 3D into it to kind of leave that impression. So these are very, very cool. You just roll this little cylinder along the clay and you get a mark. Now we've got two hot questions here, and I want you to think very carefully about both of them. Remember, we are looking for at least 2 to 3 sentences, and you will not get credit complete for your video notes if you do not do your hot question, guys. So make sure you are staying on top of these. Why, for the first one, why do you think writing is one of history's most important cultural achievements? Why does it matter that we figured out, like in ancient Mesopotamia with cuneiform, how to write things down? Okay, so think about what could happen if we didn't know how to write things down. Think about how we would live or how we would record things and how this changed life. Pause your video, go ahead and write this down, and then don't forget the second hot question. The second hot question asks, other than writing, what do you think was Sumeria's most important invention or achievement, and why? So take a look back through all of those other achievements that we talked about on this chart and tell me why it is that you think the one you chose was important. Maybe you think it was the medicine that they invented, or the plow to make farming easier, the wheel to provide transportation and pottery, or the sail. Choose the one you think was most important and tell me more about it. All right, guys, remember that these video notes are due Wednesday. That is 2 days from now. And remember, if you forget, you can always bring your device in and watch them during homeroom. We want to try to make sure you miss as little class as possible. So please bring these in. And If you have any questions, please feel free to ask, guys. I can't help you if I don't know you have a question. But I love you lots. Make good choices. Have a great day. Bye.